So welcome to the next edition of the Punk CX podcast. This episode features 3 interviews I conducted whilst at Medallia's experience event that took place in Las Vegas over the course of the 10th, 11th and 12th of February. The interviews are with Sid Banerjee, Chief Strategy Officer at Medallia, Mike Murchison, Co-founder and CEO of Ada, and Paloma Paraja, Customer Experience Manager at Santa Lucia Seguros. Let's get into the interviews. Welcome to the next edition of the Punk CX podcast. This is going to be a multi-part conversation because we are here in Las Vegas at the magnificent Wynn and Encore resorts, all very fancy, very nice.
Absolutely.
Can get properly lost in it. But I'm here back at Medallia Experience, also back with Sid Banerjee, who is a longtime friend of the podcast and also has now 1 year in the chair.
Yeah, almost 15 months now.
Yeah, it's Medallia. And I thought it would be great. I was going to be here. We talk. We would pick up on the what's happened over the last year. And I just thought I'd ask you, what's happened? What are the highlights of the last kind of year?
Well, first of all, Adrian, thanks for the opportunity. Great to be here. A lot has happened. Mm-hmm. It's been a very eventful 13, 14 months now. I came into Medallia, as I think I mentioned when we spoke about a year ago, after a long career at a company I founded and then working for a company that acquired my company. Mm-hmm. And then I took a year off and pondered the idea of retirement. But honestly, I came back to work because there was just so much going on in the space. And I have, as you know, many opinions about many things. And I thought I should put those opinions to work. Right? Yeah. So I think my initial impression of Medallia, and when we made the decision to come here, I and a number of my colleagues, was that this is a company that had a market-leading position. It had a great roster of customers, but it had built its business on a model that was going to be very dramatically changing over the coming days, years, right? Because of accelerations in the use of AI, the ability to bring in data from many more sources beyond the traditional kind of survey-led experience model. And I thought that after taking a hard look at the company had good bones, right? It had the good architecture, it had the good capability, it had good people, but it needed to focus on the future. And a big part of what we've done over the last year is trying to figure out how to do that in a organized and methodical and kind of continuously learning and growing sort of way. Mm-hmm. I think overall, my assessment, and I know I've talked to some of the other executive team here as well, is that we've made very good progress. Mm-hmm. We tried to focus the sales and service functions on go ask yourself, ask every customer, challenge them to drive more value. Right. Lean in with making sure that they get new capabilities. We rolled out a whole suite, as you know, of AI-enabled functions that make it a lot faster and easier for people to make sense of experience data, act on it, distribute it. And that capability, when we joined, we were about to announce that capability. We've rolled out to hundreds of customers in just the last 9-10 months.
That's the frontline ready.
All the frontline ready stuff. Yeah. Intelligent summaries, root cause assist, the templates for smart response, automated response using Gen AI. That capability is saving organizations time and giving them the ability to be more precise and more empathetic and more personalized in the way they kind of use customer insights and engage with customers. So a lot has happened that way. I think where we are in the beginning of this year, 2026, is still more change, right? A lot more capability coming out from the AI vendors, a lot more awareness from our customers that the market is changing. And as you heard in our keynotes, me and Fabrice, our product leader, and our CEO, Mark, we believe that what we need to now do is keep pushing the change message and keep helping our customers understand that a big part of the change is don't rely on the old metrics, really focus on outcomes and organize to build that competency in your organizations to get the outcomes you want. Right.
Before we get to the outcomes thing, because I think that's a really big theme and it's a tub that I've been thumping for some time. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the big themes, but give me a bit of a summary of some of the big things that came out of the keynotes, because we are
sure.
I guess day 0 was yesterday.
Right.
The day 1 is this is day 1 of the actual kind of keynotes and all the breakout sessions, and day 2 is tomorrow. So give me kind of a sense of what's been announced and kind of where things are.
Sure, for sure. So I'll start with the product pieces, and then there's some partnership and some other kind of offerings that we're developing. Some of the key functionalities that we are announcing and that we'll be rolling out shortly over the course of this spring. Insights Assistant,
Mm-hmm.
which basically changes the paradigm for how you interrogate experience data.
Yeah.
Historically, it was done through dashboards that you would
You
build.
could say, famously, I think it was almost to a spontaneous applause, CX is not going to be improved by more dashboards.
That's right. It's like, don't get better by building more dashboards, right? You find things faster and you act on things faster. Insights Assistant is essentially a prompt, like you would using any Gen AI tool, that you ask questions. And a question could be, what do I need to fix in my business?
Mm-hmm.
What are my top performing locations? What are the service quality issues that lead to call abandonment or lack of issue resolution? And it will basically interpret the question, find the data from within all of the signals and feedback that live in Medallia.
Mm-hmm.
It'll bubble up and surface the themes, and it'll present them to you in both a short, concise, language-based summary, and it'll give you the underlying reports.
Right.
And it is, I believe, going to really cut down the time it takes for people to find the answers to questions and to ultimately make decisions about what to improve and what to fix.
Yeah.
The other thing is, this is not just about tell me which locations have the highest or lowest NPS. I can say, which rooms do I need to service, or which products are having high returns. Anything that comes up from any feedback that's in Medallia is available through this Insights Assistant.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. The second thing we're doing is we're working on improving the quality of the way we build and maintain the analytics, specifically the text and conversation analytics. Historically, text analytics was built through the creation of ontologies or models that you would build, you would curate, you would tune largely by hand, right? Now with Gen AI, you don't need to do that nearly as much, if at all. You can basically give a corpus of feedback or experiences or conversations to the Medallia topic builder, and it will analyze it and it will suggest what you should organize. And you can give it constraints. You could say, I'm an electronics company, or I'm a hotel company.
Sure.
Use a model that makes sense, but make sure it's tuned to the words people use in my company when they talk about my products. And so it will create this very, very highly efficient and personalized set of ways to look at data. And you can run it anytime. You can run it when you're starting a program. You can run it when you're auditing the program, because, when you think about AI, models will, the technical term is they'll drift, right?
Yeah.
And so you want to make sure you keep them aligned to the language of your customers.
Yeah.
That's the second thing. The third thing is, we have always been an international customer. So our company, we've been committed to rolling out capability in markets around the globe. We announced several new languages that we're supporting, because the language of customers is not always English or or Spanish. So we're rolling out more European languages. There will be more languages to come over the course of the next year. Mm-hmm. And then the last thing is, we have basically been committed to what I would call an agentic future. Mm-hmm. And so we made some comments about the fact that as we build our products, they're not built in kind of a monolithic way. They're built to communicate between services, both in our own products, and eventually those agentic services can connect to other third-party services that might be from our technology partners or our systems integration partners. So kind of understood in the way that we think about going to market is, we are leaning much more into a partner ecosystem. Right. Because I think the experience future is going to be a very connected future. Mm-hmm. And we didn't talk about that so much on the main stage, but it was a big conversation. We had a partner summit yesterday. We had a wide range of systems integrators, consulting partners, technology partners. We also announced, as I think you're going to be speaking to the CEO of this company later, a partnership with a company called Ada. Yeah. Ada is essentially an AI-powered agentic conversation agent or bot. And it can handle support inquiries, it can solve problems, but it also importantly can actually take action, right? It can open cases, close cases, find things, initiate return processes. It essentially is a agentic support engine.
Yeah. I mean, so I know the folks at Ada. So Mike Murchison is the CEO that you're.
Exactly.
So I'm going to be. Yep. He's going to probably be in part 2.
Yeah,
part 3 of
he goes by Murch. Yes.
And yeah, and I think it's really interesting, because actually I see many companies talking about, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. But actually, maybe there's a reality who's like going, we're good at this. Mm-hmm. And then there's other people that are good at that, and fusing them all together makes a lot of sense. And so I'm excited to learn more about the Medallia and Ada sort of partnership, because I think that's because as you say, you take all these signals, drive it into insight, and then it's that sort of leap into insight into action. Now that could be insight into action, that's human action that they go and take and do something with it, or it could be actually there's an automated.
That's right. I think there's two kinds of loops. There's the human loop, and then there's the agent loop, right? And there's also inner and outer loops, right? An inner loop is something where I take the issue for an individual activity or customer, and outer loop is where I solve a problem that affects many interactions, many customers at a time. And both are going to be driven by both human and I think agentic loops through these partnerships going forward.
So I wanted to come back to the thing that you mentioned before, and it's about outcomes and how whilst I might feel like I've been talking about this for ages, but it feels like, I don't know if there's a product of the discipline of customer experience having to grow up, or also the environment where people are spending a lot of money on a lot of different things, and they have to just then people are starting to be a bit more scrutinizing things a little bit more, and therefore this has to be relevant, drive outcomes, improve ROI and things. And so, but there was a noticeable big theme, as you said, it was like outcomes, and then all the implications that come from kind of that.
Yeah, I think I'll get a little philosophical here. I think there's a few reasons why we need to focus not just ourselves, but our customers on outcomes. The first is that programs that were focused more on metrics and scores, those programs have been around for a very long time. And I do believe many of them are hitting a point of diminishing return.
Right.
When you go from not having an NPS program to an NPS program, you make a lot of movement very fast, right? When you have had that program for many years and it's part of the culture of, customer experience, it's good at maintaining, but it's not necessarily going to be disruptive as much as it might have been the first few years you were onboarding that program. So that's one reason. The second reason is the outcomes are important because as we bring in more signals into a solution like Medallia, they could be metadata about the customer. They could be information about the product or the service that's actually being driven by, the feedback you collect. We now have the ability to do a lot more root cause analysis and understand not just what is the score, but what's causing the score. Yeah. Right. So we now have the context to understand what to fix, what's working, what's not working. The last piece is when you bring in particular, conversational data or session data, think digital experience sessions or kind of even agent to agent interactions, which are now increasingly a type of session. We heard from one of our customers that on their web pages, 30% of the sessions are not actually initiated by humans. They're initiated by bots.
Okay.
Running basically ChatGPT. When you ask ChatGPT a question, it'll essentially go onto websites and find things.
Right.
So a lot of those interactions, these are for a financial services company where the people are kind of surfacing rates and things it's amazing how many of those interactions are now agentic. So we want to know what people are trying to do, how well they're achieving at getting that done. And if the outcome is a negative outcome, we want to make sure we fix whatever the experience is to get to the positive outcome. And we can do that now because we have session data. We have conversation data coming into Medallia and into our customers, instances of Medallia. So we want to shift the focus, right? And I'm getting on a bit of a soapbox here, but outcomes fall into several categories, right? An outcome is, did the customer get what they want, right? Often that produces a revenue event or a resolution event, which is good for customers to know. And if not, let's fix it. The second is, did the customer do something negative? Like they wasted a lot of time trying to solve something, or they called many times, or they channel hopped. Those are negative outcomes that fall into the category of what I like to describe as bad demand, right? We want to shrink down bad demand because bad demand is bad for the customer, and frankly, it's expensive for the company. And so tapping into and actually giving it a name and measuring it and reducing it has a huge impact. That's an outcome you want to fix. And then the third outcome is obviously, just making sure that we're driving retention, loyalty, and sales, right? Those are outcomes that are financial in nature that become very interesting to the C-suite of any organization.
Right.
Let's bring that into the context of CX. And now all of a sudden, we're not just saying your score has gone up or down, but we're saying we found things and changed things that have made this important number that the CEO cares about go up and down, that you can actually put a concrete financial or kind of business value to.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the way I look at it is I talk about, we're all in service of improving kind of outcomes, both, customer, employee, and business outcomes.
Yep.
And ultimately, that's the trifecta, right? If you get all three, right, and they're all interconnected, then you're not on you're on a pretty good kind of road. But then the thing that you kind of sort of finished off with in the session, which I thought was really interesting, was the kind of the idea that we can all talk about that, and it can be talk, but we have to then, pardon the pun, translate it into action. And then you put that sort of responsibility firmly on the CX leaders that were in the room, and you said, look, that means your job's going to change.
Yeah.
Or it's going to change, but also you need to change it too.
Correct.
So it has to be a two-sided thing. When you talked about them needed to be connectors, conductors, architects, business changers. And I wanted to understand a bit more about kind of the thinking behind that. And also then some of the 3 questions that you left at the end, because I thought those were really good start to us, because it was a bit like, well, that, and then, okay.
No, so, this kind of framing of the, change is happening, either be part of the change or change happen to you, right? This is not a new concept for me. I remember, 20 years ago, reading an article from a woman, she posted it in the New York Times, who came out of college and started out as an executive assistant. She was, one of these well-educated, at the time, that was a job she could get. It became a stepping stone to an executive career. She said, I could not have started that way 10 years later, because executive assistants, at least those kinds of high quality executive assistant jobs, disappeared because everybody started typing their own email and doing their own, messages and using computers because typewriters went away. Right. She got out in college in the late 80s or mid 80s. Right. And if you thought that was going to be a long career that was going to provide upward mobility, that was true in the 70s and 80s. It's not true now. Right. This is the same thing that's happening, I think, to CX professionals. CX professionals came into being when surveys went from paper to digital, and when insights to actions could be driven by dashboards and closed loop mechanisms and all the things that Medallia actually pioneered, 15, 20 years ago. But that is not new anymore. What's new is companies are spending hundreds, collectively, of billions of dollars changing journeys, using AI, changing internal roles within the company, and changing the way customers and companies talk together and talk to each other and get things done. And there's a lot more signal that needs to be collected. It's not just a survey anymore. So what I'm appealing to everybody to think about is, obviously, keep your survey programs running. They give you an annotation of directionally if you're doing the right thing or wrong thing. But lean into the signals that go alongside all of this other transformation and help rationalize the investments, rationalize the changes in across the business, and frankly, help them figure out whether those changes are giving you the right financial outcomes or not. And by the way, along the way, you'll learn how to use AI. You'll learn how to use these new signals. You'll learn about agentic integrations. You're preparing your careers for the future, and you're frankly helping your companies migrate and navigate to the future.
Yeah.
I think it's important for us all to be thinking that, right? I have a son that just graduated from college. He tells me he's a software developer. He says he's doing about 50 to 60% of his code development using the Claude product from Anthropic, right? And he said, I don't want to be the person whose job is eliminated by AI. I want to be the person who uses AI so that I keep my job.
Yep.
I think we all need to think about that, Wes, right?
But I also do think the whilst we need to be on top of the tools and how we can use them to improve us. I mean, I go back to the questions you asked. You talked about the first question is to figure out what outcome that you want to improve.
Right.
Then think about which stakeholder it impacts.
Yep.
And then the third question is, who are you going to send that text to get started kind of like next week? And I think the thing I wanted to finish on, just emphasize,
of course,
is that idea is that we need to still maintain that organizations are still essentially human constructs.
Yes.
That are powered and enabled by infrastructure and technology and all these processes and all these different sort of things.
That's right.
So it starts with a human and ends with a human in love.
Yeah, and by the way, the customers are still human too, and that's
And so
100%.
And leaning into that idea that large organizations, or even regardless of what size they are, organizations are generally messy places.
Yes.
Right. And getting stuck in and understand how you improve things, who it impacts, whose life you can make better, and when are you going to get started and getting stuck in there. It's like you get to a position where when you educate yourself, when you create a role where actually you're kind of important because you get things done, and that really matters. It still matters.
That's exactly right. At the end of the day, businesses are human organizations, they're human enterprises. And so the reason we framed those sort of calls to action into those 3 ideas is question 1, what outcome do you want to improve?
Yeah.
The reason you have to ask that question is you have to figure out for your business, for your organization, what is important to the company, right? And align yourself to something that's going to be important, And those outcomes may be different depending on the month or the year you're in, right? A company might be doing a massive digital transformation right now. They might be rolling out a major new product or running a marketing campaign to kind of get that product marketed and accepted into the marketplace. They may be dealing with, risk in their business, and they want to minimize the risk of product quality or safety. So figure out what's going to move the needle for your company and say, let me start here. Doesn't mean that's the only thing you're going to do, but align to the situational conditions of your business.
Sure.
So ask yourself. And by the way, answering that question is also a great consultative exercise for the CX professional because it aligns them to what's important, at least right now. The second question is basically what part of the business you're going to reach out to, right? Mm-hmm. That's about, again, picking. Oftentimes picking is going to be about where there's value, but also where there's interest, right? In any organization, there are going to be leaders and laggards, people that want to lean into answering a hard problem, those that want to be left alone. Align yourself to the change makers, right? If you want to be a change maker, you need to find other change makers in an organization. That's how you get stuff done, right? And then the third question, which is, what are you going to say? Who are you going to reach out to? And what's going to be the text or email you send to that person? That gets you down to the brass tacks of defining and forming an opinion about how you can help, right? So you're creating action and momentum. I think we all need to do that, right? Sorry, it's noisy here.
No, it's fine. It's like, if anybody's hearing out there on the background, it's like, realize that we are in a conference center.
Yeah, there may be some ambient noise here.
And there's some ambient noise of people changing things.
Oh, it's about that.
I need to go. Yeah. Because we're getting hooked off stuff.
But hopefully that gives you some reason for those three questions.
And I think that's absolutely right. And it's like, for too long, how CS leaders just kind of fiddle around almost working in isolation. Now you need to step into it.
That's right.
Make, as you say, be the change, make the change, be the change makers.
Yeah.
And that's the I think the headline.
Yeah.
Or you have the responsibility. Thank you, Sid.
Thank you. It's great to talk to you.
What a great chat that was with Sid. And I hope it gives you a flavour of some of the highlights from Medallia's Experience event and what they've been working on and what's coming up. I particularly like Sid's 3 questions that are aimed at CX professionals and leaders to help them focus their efforts and prioritise their investments and initiatives. Now, let's get into my next conversation, which is with Mike Murchison, co-founder and CEO of Ada. So welcome back to the Punk CX podcast. This is part 2 of a 3-parter that I'm doing at Medallia Experience 2026. I'm with Mike Murchison, who is the co-founder and CEO of Ada, but is also, most importantly, a friend of the podcast. Can you remember when you were first on the podcast?
First on the podcast 4 years ago?
May 2023.
There you go. Yeah.
And we talked about all sorts of things, what you were up to. And it's funny how paths cross again. And you're here at Medallia because you've just launched a partnership with Medallia. I want to know more about that, kind of dig into that a little bit later. But first time at Medallia Experience?
First time at Medallia Experience.
Tell me your highlights.
I'd say that lots of things stand out. So one is everyone's trying to get deeper and deeper understanding of their customer.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone is trying to understand what the relationship is between insight that they're garnering about their customer base and how they actually take action on that insight.
Yeah.
Whether that's direct action with the customer or more operational action. How do they leverage these insights to galvanize their company and their peers to make changes to improve the customer experience?
Mm-hmm.
And then third, I'd say there's just an insane amount of excitement about AI. Like the pace of change is real. There's definitely some latent anxiety you can feel in the room around what this means. But overall,
the conversation and the questions from the lady in your breakout session, and like yesterday, she was there like, what about this? And what about this? And how are we going to do this?
Yeah, exactly. Lots of questions that with some solutions already in place that certainly we've discovered some of them, but also many unknown unknowns ahead, which I think which speaks to the anxiety being justified.
Yeah. But the big news for me is that having known a bit about Ada and your development over the last kind of few years, and also known about Medallia too, is that you struck up this partnership.
Yeah, we have.
And I thought it was, because you mentioned this sort of insight into action, and that seems to be the thing, but I wanted you to ask you to tell me a little bit more about the partnership, but particularly from the perspective of in your breakout session that you did with Courtney, shout out to Courtney, by the way, you said, we're not intelligence constrained, but we're context constrained. And you know what? We're probably only a few weeks into 2026, and context seems to be the word of the year. And it's just spreading across the world. It's contextual intelligence and how that applies to, personalization, operational decisions, and so on and so forth. And so I just wanted to start with that and say, help me understand. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean a few things when I say that we're no longer intelligence constrained, we're context constrained. But the first thing I mean is that I think most of the world is still waking up to the fact that PhD level intelligence is a single API call away.
Mm-hmm.
It's no longer 3 degrees of separation, or your second cousin, or your friend who you pick up the phone who's whip smart that you get to weigh in on your most complicated issue. It's literally available in your pocket at any point you want.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a very, it's an understatement to say that that's profound.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot about how most of corporate history, call it 250 years of organizational development, has been predicated upon a assumption that intelligence is a scarce resource.
Mm-hmm.
We organize ourselves, we build, we create, and we do that around an assumption that we are the humans are the only sources of intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And that's no longer true. So that's, I think, point number one,
mm-hmm.
is that we need to wake up to the fact that intelligence is here and it's no longer only just human. The second point is that in order to take advantage of that intelligence, that it needs more than just to show up in the room.
Mm-hmm.
It needs more information, it needs context about what it needs to do. This is something that perhaps is easier to understand. We all know that if you show up on day one at a job, no matter how smart you are, unless you're equipped with clear goals, a set of tools that the company uses,
mm-hmm.
Information about what's happened in the past, it's going to be challenging for you to succeed. So that's a long way of saying that the quality of experience ahead is much more a function of how much information your intelligence has access to,
mm-hmm.
how much capability it has access to, and much less a function of how smart the system or person is who's engaging with your customer. And that has big implications for how companies are organized, and in particular how CX teams think about improving their experience.
Yeah. I think it's you can have all the information in the world, but if you say the wrong thing at the wrong time, then you just look like a dumbass.
Well, that's true too. I think that adds another layer, right? Like no one likes it. Yeah. No one likes to know it all as well. So I think once you have, that is true, but it is necessary but not sufficient to have complete context.
Absolutely.
And we need to layer on additional layer of expectation, of guardrails, of personality.
It's also understanding and relevance, right?
Yes.
It's you have to fit the right sort of thing. So it's a bit like if I think about going to, say, the doctor, right?
Yeah.
And you have a health concern, and the doctor, I don't know, in their own inimitable sort of style, starts to talk at you in a sort of patronizing kind of way. It's unlikely you're going to hear or really take in what's being kind of saying to you. But if you have somebody that I guess we talk about the old medical training, we talk about people's bedside manner,
mm-hmm.
right? So because you have somebody who might be a savant when it comes to medical science and they know everything about everything, but if their delivery is not right, and then it doesn't quite kind of work. And so it's about all the different elements. And I think that's the interesting thing about context, because context is not just about the right message at the right time, but it's almost also in the right way to suit the person.
Yeah. So the way I think about this is I think personalization is adjacent really to context. The way you personalize is a function of the context you have, but it's a discrete set of expectations that you're putting on a system or an agent or an experience. The bedside manner is a good example, right? Like, I agree that ultimate experience is you have an amazing physician who's got incredible bedside manner. But I would way rather a deeply experienced physician who has terrible bedside manner than someone who's got amazing bedside manner and no medical knowledge and experience.
Yeah.
And,
No, I can understand that, and it's a fair challenge, and you've got to try and strike that kind of that balance, because you don't want a snake oil salesman who's kind of great at charming you, absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And there's a charlatan when it comes to the necessary background, kind of like knowledge and expertise.
Yeah.
But I think you've got to bear that, but I think you've got to bear that in mind. That's because the context. You said also another thing. It says the best experience or relationships that you have are the ones that have the most context.
Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that context is wielded or used appropriately. That's a separate problem to solve, which you're bringing up.
Yeah.
But me knowing that you just flew in from London yesterday, day before, and that you've been on a lot of flights recently, changes the way that I show up in our conversation with you.
Of course.
And, whether or not I choose to wield that information or not, I have the opportunity to. If I didn't know that, it's much harder for us to form a connection, as a small example.
Yeah.
Right?
And so tell me about what is the partnership? What does it aim to do?
The partnership helps with context.
Okay.
That's one way to think about it. In that, Ada is a agentic customer experience company. We power some of the most performant agents in the world now across all channels. But we only have a window typically into the context and the channels that we live.
Yeah.
Medallia is, I think of as extremely performant signal infrastructure. They're very good at ingesting customer signals everywhere.
Yeah.
And it turns out that if you deploy an AI agent with Ada in a messaging channel, and you pair that with the context of not only the customer experience historically in that messaging channel, but also the experience in the voice channel and surveys elsewhere, that agent can be far more empathic, far more personalized, and deliver a better experience.
Awesome. Because in the breakout session you did with Courtney, you kind of sort of brought that to life with a company called Ipsy.
Correct. Yeah, Ipsy. Ipsy's a large online retailer, about 20 million customers. They're a good example of this. So they work with both Ada and
because they were a Medallia customer, right? And then they became an Ada customer. And is that how the thing kind of came about?
I think actually in this case we both were customers independently.
Okay.
And then we struck the partnership, and we realized, Ipsy's a great example of a company where now they can get even more value.
Okay.
And the more value they get is their agent is more capable and more personalized, and it proves faster.
And so tell me about, because you showed some pretty impressive stats that, and these are not like, I thought what's interesting is there's not like case study stats where like going, we did this and this is the results. We're like going, these are the results for the last 4 months.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And so tell me about some of that, because there's some big numbers.
There are. Yeah. I think the results of the last 4 months are interesting in that Ipsy's AI agent's performance has improved along 2 key dimensions quite considerably. The first is that it's resolving 60% more than it was prior.
With all that additional context.
Correct. And the second is that its customer satisfaction, I think, is about 20% higher post this integration and partnership. And again, you lose your mind. You're like, that's interesting. That's great. Those are great results. I think what's most important is that they continue to improve.
Yes.
And that's what this partnership really represents. It's a combination of you think of it as a system of insight or measurement from Medallia and a system of agentic CX in Ada.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a beautiful flywheel that happens there, which is, as Ipsy's AI agent becomes more capable and more personalized, it engages with more customers, capturing more insights, which feeds back and it creates more opportunities to improve it ahead.
So, I mean, I think that for me, that was all, the results and the partnership and things was all really impressive. But I think the thing that I found also really interesting, and it sort of circled back to the conversation that we had back in 2023, was you talked about the evolving role of some of the human agents.
Yeah.
As that sort of like sort of space. And I wanted to, ask you to explain to me what has happened. And then I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you, do you remember how you referred to them back in 2023?
Okay. Yes. I believe I do. So
So tell me about what's happening right now. Was it the
ACX?
ACX, yeah, folks. Because I think that's just starting to emerge in terms of the thing that, if you like, the soft tissue dimension of harnessing the potential of a lot of this technology. And it's often the thing that many folks are already starting to really realize, because they're starting to realize that the nature of enterprise software has fundamentally changed with the advent of AI-powered software. It's like maintenance and development is now shared for both vendor and kind of customer. It's on a shared kind of basis.
Oh, that's a good way of putting that. Interesting, yeah.
Because before it was like, you buy the software, you do the onboarding, you get training, you have a QBR, you have access to customer success, and that's all, and all the maintenance was over here. Whereas now you have to spin up and have a team of people that are going to do the development and the training, the monitoring, and all these different sort of things. And I think that's that dimension, that cost and headcount, and then expertise and capability dimension, I think is only becoming apparent.
I agree. I think the time is now. The companies, we're certainly seeing the companies that are powering the best customer experiences. What do they have in common? They have teams that manage their own AI agents.
Yeah.
And the central concept is that AI is a management discipline.
Yeah.
This is not a tool like a previous generation of software that you set and forget. This is not a space that allows humans to just collaborate. This is a new operating muscle. And what our customers are doing is they're establishing ACX teams, agentic customer experience teams.
Right.
These are folks who are responsible for the performance of their customer-facing AI agents. And we equip them with the people, the process, the technology to become extremely successful. What we are rallying cries, what we say inside Ada is our mission in many ways is to make the world's ACX teams succeed.
Okay.
And that's in service of improving the customer experience around the world. But our specific path to do that is to take this group of humans who are in these new crazy roles called ACX managers and give them superpowers. That's what Ada does.
Okay.
And what's interesting now is that, yes, I think the market's waking up to this being needed, but it's also something we've been doing for quite some time. There are thousands of ACX managers in the world now. We have a large community of a lot of them who share best practices with one another, who have actually, many of them have now traveled to multiple different companies around long enough where their skill set is now coveted. And I think, I'd love your perspective on this, but I think this is kind of similar to like the earlier days of the web.
Okay.
Where, I think the ACX teams are a lot like the early like web teams or digital teams.
Right.
And, it's kind of this small emerging group that ends up becoming extremely important and in many ways the backbone of the future of the companies.
And I think that's a fair sort of comparison, I think. I mean, they are, I call them early adopters, pioneers, call them whatever. They have a particular skill set that's in short supply.
That's right.
And I think I'd be interested to hear if you've got any insight about where they're coming from. Or is it that people are migrating out of support into those roles, or the contact center, or the people coming adjacently or laterally?
Often the first ACX manager is the top performing member of the customer service or customer experience organization.
Okay.
It's a new career path for them.
Okay.
And what's so cool is that many of them will, the minute they become an ACX manager, their career will take off. Many of them have gone on already in the last few years to become leaders in their respective companies, often owning not only CX, but big part of operations.
Okay.
And that's because operations are becoming AI native.
Yeah.
So the ACX team, in many ways, we're seeing as catalyzing wider AI transformation, let's call it, lack of a better term. And that's pretty exciting. It means that a lot of the exec teams and boards and our customers are often highlighting these ACX managers as examples of team members who'd be more like.
Yeah. Awesome. No, I think that's exciting because it's like, it's also exciting to understand that there's a community of people that are doing that. And I think there's probably spots of communities or little communities around the place.
It's human too, right? It reminds people that, this is about giving a group of people more leverage over the customer experience. And in many ways, it goes way back to my founding days of Ada. It's about really helping CX leaders build the experience they've always wanted. And I know you know this well. We've connected on this over the years. It's like, who knows the customer best inside the company? It's not the product person. Everyone says people like to think it's the product. It's always your customer service representative.
Yeah.
Always. And they always know what the best experience is. They always know what it would be, but they haven't been empowered with the tools and the capability and the mandate to build it. And that in many ways is what ACX represents.
Nice. A couple of final things. What's next for the partnership? I mean, what's to expect? Is that it's locked in and we can see Ada exploding into the sort of the Medallia kind of partner?
Yeah, we think so. I think there's just such great alignment between our teams. There's some great early examples that customers are really benefiting for a partnership, and we expect over the year ahead there's going to be a lot more. And so new experiences that'll be possible and more customers who can get them.
Awesome. Anything else that I've missed out that you want to share with
I think broadly, like if I look at 2026, we spoke about, one core lesson across our customer base is that AI is being treated as a management discipline. That's key to success. There are two others that stand out. The second is that, we've moved into the resolution era of CX.
Mm-hmm.
I would say we've been there for a couple of years. I think what's most important ahead is not just the resolution that your AI is powering, but the depth of resolution it's power.
Okay.
And resolution depth is a core area of focus for us as a company. It's one of the reasons many of our customers are super excited about the capabilities we're powering. And what that really means is that over time, the way to think about the quality of your customer experience will in part be a function of the complexity and time horizon of the tasks.
Okay.
Your AI.
So that's what you mean by the depth of the resolution.
That's right. And then the third thing is that I really think customer lifetime value is a big theme in 2026 ahead. This is not about driving efficiency. It's not only about driving cross-sell, upsell. Like at the end of the day, the best customer-facing AI is going to increase your customer loyalty. That's going to show up in some sort of CLTV measure. And I think the companies that are anchoring at that point, first and foremost, from the top down, those are the ones that are moving quickly and getting the best result.
So I think there's I completely endorse that. I think there's two things I would say is like the ways to think about it is that I got introduced to a concept late last year, which I thought was brilliant, and I've now subsequently sort of stolen it. Although it's called service dividend. And it's how people are moving from that sort of point of I can use these technologies to achieve X, which might be cost savings, efficiency gains, productivity, headcount reduction, whatever, right? But as people have been successful, they're able to realize they're going, well, we can achieve those cost reductions, we can achieve those efficiency gains, but we can also it's a choice. Do we take that and put it in our back pocket, or do we take those kind of gains and we go, "Ooh, I can reinvest it back into my team and my infrastructure, my training, and all these sort of things," and that's the service dividend.
I love that term. I haven't heard it expressed that way before. We talk about something very similar, and we try to bring the service dividend to life for our customers. One way we do that is we encourage our customers to think about eye contact.
Mm-hmm.
And so
we talked about eye contact earlier on as a point to Jenny, who's slightly off kind of camera.
One way of thinking about, because a lot of companies struggle with, I'm driving efficiency with AI.
Mm-hmm.
What do I do with that efficiency?
Mm-hmm.
And one thing you can do is work backwards from the premise of what would be true about your business if everyone who was customer facing spent way more time looking in your customer's eyes. And that's just true in most businesses, but you think about, where we are in a hotel right now. Think about the quality of experience benefit when the front desk employee isn't behind a computer screen when they greet you. Isn't going to excuse me, have your name and number or but they know right away. It's great to have you here. They take your bags.
Yeah.
The benefit, I think, of becoming more human because of what you've automated is, I think, understated right now. And you can think about it. The service dividend can be expressed in the amount of eye contact that people receive.
Yeah, no, I love that. And the other kind of thing I was going to highlight, I had on a previous podcast, I had Sarah Richter from SAP Immersis talking about their loyalty, the customer loyalty index research that they do and how that's changing. That's really interesting. But she brought along, and the last time that she brought Fred Reichheld open as well. And Sid made a reference to this, and the thing is that the ultimate question is no longer the ultimate question. But actually, what's interesting that Fred Reichheld was saying this is that, and this is not about score, it's about a system of management. It's about how you approach your kind of business, and that he believes that loyalty is actually the only game, and how you drive loyalty and how you get to that point where people start to talk about you and refer you. And he was like, he said, most companies on average will have, the best companies will say have about 20% of their customers will have been referred by, 20% of the new customers will be referred by their existing customers. He says, what's interesting about that is that 20% of new customers will drive 70 to 80% of the profitability of your existing kind of new customers, just because of the quality of their route to your kind of business. And if you're not leaning into that and developing more eye contact, as it were, actually trying to systematize all that sort of stuff and be intentional and deliberate about it, then you're losing out.
I love that.
So I think it's a great point. The idea that, because it comes back to sort of like, driving outcomes, which has been a big theme of the event, but driving outcomes that matter for both customers and employees, and also kind of businesses, and getting all those things right. I think this is
it's what's literally the second order effects of a given outcome. It's like I've driven a big efficiency outcome, but what's the dividend that it gives me? How do I bank it? Right? I think those are really important questions.
Awesome, Mike. Thank you.
Great to be back on the pod.
Great to see you.
Great to see you too. Cheers. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Again, another great chat. I'm really excited to see how the partnership with Medallia and Ada develops, and I have to say that the results of their work together with Ipsy are impressive. I also really like Mike's thoughts on the evolving roles of human agents. It's definitely something to watch and investigate more. So, shall we get into the final interview with Paloma Paraja? I should note that Paloma was recognized at the event as an experienced transformation leader via an XP award. So this is going to be a really great conversation. So let's get into it. So this is the third installment, or the third instance of the series of interviews that I've been doing at Medallia Experience 2026 here in Las Vegas at the Wynn. Wyatt. It sounds like something out of a Western. And I'll probably leave that in anyway, because that's just the start of the podcast. But I'm joined with Paloma Paraja, who is a customer experience manager at Santa Lucia Seguros, which is an insurance company, I believe, in Spain. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
I want to start by saying, is it your first time at a Medallia event?
Yes, my first time.
So, your head must be bursting full of things. What has been some of the highlights for you over the last couple of days?
It's been crazy. It's such a huge source of knowledge and a big opportunity to learn from many different points of view, roles, industries, sectors. But we all have something in common, which is like a shared purpose. So it has been wonderful to discover it and to go through all these very intense breakout sessions where we share ideas and you start to think about how to apply them to your own business and get all these sources of valuable insights and knowledge. This has been fantastic.
Awesome. So you'll be back again next year, will you?
I hope so. But just for having fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but this year, one of the biggest reasons that you're here, because let me get this right. You were the winner of the Experience Transformation Leader Award as part of the 2026 Medallia XP Awards.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
So I know you were given that award because of the program that you're running at Santa Lucia Seguros. I wondered if you could tell me a little bit about what you've done and sort of how long it's taken, and some of the impacts, some of the outcomes that you've driven, because outcomes seems to be a really big theme. One of the overriding themes of the event. So tell me a little bit about the program.
Okay, I arrived in Santa Lucia in 2022. They had a very solid survey system, but not more. This same year, I started leading the implementation of Medallia.
Okay.
So maybe the first step was to understand that we were not able to mobilize teams and to get teams involved of what we were saying, yet by sharing with them reports based on the scores and numbers. Right. It was very difficult to make them understand what was happening behind. So our first step was to complete this service program that was already working by making context linked to every interaction. So we connected Medallia to our internal systems, our CRM, all the programs we use for operating, link and bring with every interaction valuable information that we can use to better understand what's happening and not just what customers are saying.
Right.
So, for example, in a home repair, we have information about which technicians were involved during the repair, how much does it cost to us, how long took us to finish all the work. So all this information that we can then contrast with what customers are saying and kind of make an idea for all these teams that are involved in this process about how this process is going and how it's impacting the customer.
Okay. And is that what you meant? Because I saw you were speaking, you were being interviewed by Sid on the main stage as part of the award. And you said something which said that you said context builds empathy. And is that kind of what you meant by that?
Yes,
it's actually the internal kind of empathy.
Yes, absolutely. Because by understanding what's behind every interaction is the only way of getting these teams involved, because they suddenly kind of start to see what is the action needed to change things and how they can get involved to achieve it. So yes, context creates empathy, with no doubt.
And one of the other big themes out of the event is also this idea about demonstrating impact. We kind of are. And I wanted to understand, or to ask you a little bit, so the program it's growing and it's maturing and things.
Yes.
What sort of ROI, what sort of impact has it had on the overall kind of business?
Well, after completing surveys or giving them context, we started to listen to unsolicited feedback.
Okay.
Which was our maybe huge source of knowledge for customers, because at least in our sector, when something is happening to you, you make sure that the company knows it, and you don't wait until you receive a survey to do it.
Sure.
If something urgent is happening, you take the phone, you text a message, whatever you want, but you make us notice. And the rest of the time in an insurance company, you don't have interactions with your customers. They are just paying.
Well, I think that's the thing is about insurance, right? You buy insurance and you sort of hope that you never have to use it.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
But when something does happen, you expect you want people to show up and to fix things and everything else. But when they don't, and it becomes hard, then it's a very opposite ends of the spectrum. So if somebody shows up and something goes wrong and you make a claim and everything goes great, you're like, ta-da, it's like magic. But when it becomes hard, then it's like, so it can be, it's almost like a Jekyll and Hyde type of thing.
Absolutely. And for that, you need to listen during the process.
Right.
You can't wait till the end to ask. You need to know everything that's happening between all this time that could took us too long, because many times for a home repair we can spend weeks,
right,
even months if it's a huge complicated situation. So we cannot wait. We have and we need to listen. That's why our next step was unsolicited feedback, and then try and to connect all these insights, both from solicited or unsolicited feedback, but trying to make the whole picture of the customer to better understand how they behave through different moments of their life with you, and then aggregate all these individual cases to make kind of patterns, and trying to understand better how we are truly performing.
And I'm assuming that you could probably take, say, similar instances, say there may be a customer that has had maybe a home repair, they're making a claim, and they will have had a certain experience, and you can see how that works. And then somebody else will have a very different experience, and you can manage the difference and what the impact is on the kind of the business. And that's where you can kind of see, if we move everybody to here, then we can save kind of like this, and you can start to see all that through this massive signal data. You can start to pull out kind of comparators, as it were.
And that's also when you can start to kind of measure this business impact.
Right.
When you aggregate different cases. For example, in a home repairs, it's quite simple. If something is happening during the process or the process is getting too long, it's very easy, for example, for a customer to call you 3, 4, 5 times what he needs to just to ask, how is this going? If you are able to detect it on the first one and prevent the next one because you take action, that means you're saving too much money.
You've
repeated calls.
Yeah.
So this has a clear impact KPI on business that allow us to step forward and to continue doing things.
Yeah. And I guess it goes back to that sort of context builds empathy sort of things, is when you start building those connections to teams and they understand the impact and they understand that actually if you've got a customer that's been chasing for updates, then say when the appointment actually happens for the work to be done, you're not met with a frosty customer, then it makes their, you're met with a welcoming customer, then it makes their job easier as well. So like it's I guess it's looking at it in a systemic sort of way and trying to understand all the connections and what are good connections and what are good flows and what are not so good flows and how you can remove some of those sort of things. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. So the other thing I wanted to ask, because there's a couple of things I wanted to pick up with the things that you also said to Sid in your conversation, was the next one was about, you said listening is discipline. And I wanted to understand what you kind of meant by that, because I thought, well, actually, people talk about listening all the time and things, and across different channels, but I didn't really understand the discipline component. I was sure that you were trying to make a specific point. I wanted to ask you about what were you actually trying to say there, and so because I think it's quite important.
Because listening is just not connecting Medallia to whatever system and start to collect information.
Okay.
You have to work hard on it to really get what you need to know from that. So it's a discipline in a way. You have to be continuously pendant of that with an eye put on it and controlling a lot what you're receiving, learning all those topics, all the themes customers are demanding you, and being able to react to that, to all that information, which is huge information. So having this ability to be constantly monitoring this and reacting in real time, minute by minute, is a discipline and needs a hard work to not end by just collecting data and not doing anything.
Yeah, I mean,
which is a big risk.
Well, exactly. I mean, I think that you end up you get to the point where there's lots of research that says that many marketing, CX leaders, service leaders, whatever, they've got more data than they know what to do with.
Absolutely.
And so if you don't understand kind of what it is what you're doing and why, then it doesn't, it's just like, it's all a bit haphazard.
So maintaining this and maintaining also all the company also listening needs hard work and a very high discipline to not get lost in all this.
Yes, exactly. I mean, and so the next thing I wanted to ask you about, it's just the final thing from the conversation with Sid, and it's almost a bit like a revisiting an old idea, and it's something which I think I wanted to ask you about because it sort of gets lost in all this big data and analytics and AI-powered systems and things. And you talked about putting on your customer's shoes.
Absolutely.
Tell me how that manifested itself in your kind of like in your case, in your program.
For me, it's absolutely necessary to, in our CalTech day-to-day, stop and think in a very concrete situation, me as a customer, what should I do? Because we are customers all the time for many companies, and we have very clear what we expect as customers. And then when you're a CX leader or you work in a big company, sometimes you forget it. And you just focus on, okay, the numbers are saying this, I need to achieve this score, I need to get these objectives. But sometimes it's so simple as stop, think in a very particular situation, and imagine what would you expect as a customer. Me as a customer, having an insurance product of whatever, what should I expect?
I think it's an important point because actually I characterize it a bit like a Jekyll and Hyde syndrome. So it's a bit like you can be a person, like a regular, citizen, human being, and then you cross the threshold of your organization and you turn into this.
Yes. But you cannot live or change I always say this, you cannot change like your mask, and for one moment be a customer, for other moment be worker and whatever, another time you are a father, another time you are a friend. You are all these things all the time.
Yeah.
And you can't forget it. It's very important.
No, absolutely. And it links back to that whole sort of just an empathy kind of point, because actually the work that we're trying to do is we're trying to be empathetic to our customers' needs, and then be able to, and by doing that, we'll be able to serve them kind of better and make better decisions to serve them. So what's next for the program, apart from world domination, obviously?
Don't think so. It's so far for us. We have too little for that, but at least for our customers, which are the most important ones for us. The next big step are focused on predictability and proactivity.
Okay.
We have nowadays enough information to do it, especially from coming from a structured feedback. Until now, we have been reacted, I think, incredibly fast. But the next step is to react before things happens. And through this information that we collect on speech analytics, digital, social service, being able to anticipate needs, risks, and even operational spikes, even before they happen. Mm-hmm. And being able also to redistribute our networks of providers, our contact center teams, depending on real-time demand. Mm-hmm. And for completing the circle, with that information, also communicate proactively to customers when we detect the first signal of any kind of risk. Yes, to avoid them, to give them some help, helpful information for them, and what warranty, recording them what warranties they have. Mm-hmm. Refreshing all that you're saying one day in a contract and you have probably forget, but you can use it, how you need to use it, and all these kind of things.
I mean, the thing is, people have talked about proactive service for the longest time, and I think people have waited for technology to catch up to make it easy for them. But actually,
yes,
it's always been possible. It's just been a bit harder without the technology. Now it's a bit easier. But I think what's interesting is it speaks to a very human, if you like, phenomenon, which is particularly in a case which is a high emotional stakes case within insurance, whether it's home repair or whether it's travel or whatever it might be. When you make a claim, or you have something happen, and you don't get any feedback, or you don't provide any information, there's an idea which says nature abhors a vacuum. So in the absence of other information, our anxieties help us make stuff up, and we kind of create all these scenarios in our head, and that just causes problems further down the line. And so being proactive,
yes, absolutely,
just assuages people's concern.
Yes, sometimes you just need to say, I'm working on it, be patient, I'll solve it.
Don't over-engineer it.
Yes.
Just going to say, we're here, we're on it, it's happening, we're taking care of it.
We know this is happening to you, we have all our teams working for you, be patient, we will contact you, we will solve it. Mm-hmm. And that's it. You don't need anything more, but you need to be proactive for that.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, is that you don't need to over-engineer it. You don't need to kind of come up with the answer to everything. You just need to basically say, "We got you. We're working on it. This is what we know. This is what's happening," and things, and then give people information, so then it stops those anxieties kind of building up. And I think it's a really powerful thing. So thank you for that, and congratulations on the success of the program and the award and everything else so far. And good luck for building that proactive kind of layer, which is going to help immensely, I'd imagine. But given you've gone through this, if somebody's listening to this and thinking about their own sort of program, what sort of advice would you give them? What would you say? Do this, don't do that. That type of thing.
I would say try and try. Mm-hmm. don't be afraid of failing sometimes, of not achieving things. Try to find very little but well-defined use cases where you can show business impact. And through that, then escalate to biggest things. But don't pretend to have everything from the beginning, because if you connect everything, you start to move this huge volume of data, you will probably get lost. It's better going step by step and understanding well what you're doing and what you're receiving in every step.
Okay.
And then making it at scale.
Yeah.
And maybe the biggest learning through all this time, for us at least, was that great customer experience is just humanity at scale. You can't forget that we're all humans and our customers are too.
Yeah.
And they have their needs, their worries, and everything you need to cover in every interaction.
I think that's a great place to end. Great customer experiences, humanity at scale.
Absolutely.
Drop the mic. Let's walk off. Thank you so much, and congratulations on the award.
Thank you so much.
Wow, that's another great conversation. And I just must say, congratulations to Paloma and the team at Santa Lucia Seguros for all they have achieved, and long may it continue. So that's it for the interviews. I hope that you found them insightful and that they gave you a flavour of some of the highlights from the event and a lot of things to think about as well. Do tune in again. All the very best. Thanks.
Wow, what a great interview. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. Find out more about me and the work that I do at adrianswinscoe.com. Do leave a review on your favourite podcast platform. And if you have any comments, feedback, or questions about the podcast, then feel free to send me a message to podcast@adrianswinscoe.com. And do tune in again. Thanks very much.